Okay, down on pole position there, the Metro 6R4 of Will Gollop. These cars, of course, now coming into Rallycross following their ban in international rallying. The V6 mid-engined four-wheel drive car, putting out about 500 brake horsepower. And Will Gollop from Canterbury, where he runs a Saab agency, the reigning Formula B champion of Great Britain, and of course the Linden Hill champion. And he is surely, with that pole position, going to be a very difficult man to beat. But over on to his right, we can see the Gita Fashions X-Track of John Smith, and on the outside there, the black Audi Quattro of Dimi Mavropoulos. Watch the second row as well. Number 15, Rob Gibson, 35, Mick Quaife. Revs building up, and thousands of brake horsepower unleashed into action, and it's number 44, John Smith, who gets away first from 18, Will Gollop, with Rob Gibson making a very good run from the second row of the grid to come up into third place ahead of Dimi Mavropoulos. Then comes Mick Quaife, but they all close under braking as they come down into the S's for the first time. Still headed by John Smith from Folkestone, from Whitstable, Will Gollop. A very Kentish battle there going up Harewood Hill, with Cheshire's Rob Gibson in third place, just ahead of Dimi Mavropoulos, with Terry Wright down at the tail end of the field in the Mini. But meantime, it's number 18, Will Gollop, from 44, John Smith, 8, Dimi Mavropoulos, 15, Rob Gibson, as they all pour down through Langley's Gap onto the notorious knife edge, where in the shade it can still be very, very slippery indeed here again this afternoon as we start round 2 of the series. And it's still Will Gollop, though, holding the advantage now from number 44, John Smith. Whitstable Will Gollop with the normally aspirated V6 fuel-injected Metro, leading the Turbo Escort, the Turbo Audi Quattro of Dimi Mavropoulos, but not for much longer, because it's John Smith getting alongside with the X-Track. John Smith getting the four-wheel drive Escort alongside Will Gollop, but can't find a way through. Meantime, Dimi Mavropoulos right in there in the action as well. Rob Gibson also. Warren Barnes with the CR8 going through ahead of Terry Wright. But back up front, they are side by side, so this time it's Dimi Mavropoulos who's come through. The fruit importer from Covent Garden in the Pearl of Cyprus, Cyprus Airways Black Audi Quattro, now leading. Dimi Mavropoulos, the man who was third in the British Championship in 1986, leading this race now from Will Gollop, who is just thereabouts in second place. Will Gollop in second place, still John Smith in third. And of course, Rallycross, the only place where you can see the full highly developed Group B cars in action now, and terrific spectacle it makes as Will Gollop takes the Metro back into the lead. Number 18, Will Gollop, goes back into the lead, but a huge traffic jam of machinery behind him there as they all vie for placings going along the knife edge over Hoppy's drop. A lovely shot there of Will Gollop getting almost airborne as he comes down onto the tarmac. Dimi Mavropoulos coming away with him. Those two cars now beginning to lose John Smith, but Dimi Mavropoulos coming through and to try and take Will under braking, and Dimi Mavropoulos gets the Quattro through ahead of Will Gollop. John Smith just out of the fray there at the moment, not quite able to get on terms with them. And Will Gollop, who is tipped by many, many people to be a strong outsider for honours in this particular championship. Could he be the man to defeat Johnny Welsh? Well, at the moment, he's finding it very difficult to keep in front of Dimi Mavropoulos. But Dimi, he has got past. Meantime, we've got Rob Gibson there in third place. Rob Gibson with the come up into third place ahead of John Smith. John Smith dropping down, and Rob Gibson gets the two-wheel drive car momentarily into third place, but then gets very sideways, takes to the grass in his efforts to get back on terms with number 44, John Smith. Can't quite do it as they go away with a lap to go. It's still number 18, Will Gollop. Will Gollop still holding the advantage. We can see John Smith and Rob Gibson coming in the action there. Mick Quaife has dropped back a bit. The two leaders, though, very close together over Hoppy's drop. John Smith getting back close to them, pushed away all the way along by Rob Gibson with his new rear spoiler, seemingly working well on the Porsche. Up front, it's still number 18, Will Gollop. Will Gollop down through the chicane from Dimi Mavropoulos, John Smith. Rob Gibson having a super race here this afternoon. Ford agent from Holmes Chapel up in Cheshire holding fourth place, but the Saab agent from Canterbury, Will Gollop, still holding the lead. A very tenuous lead it is as they come down through the S's for the last time out onto the ascent of Harewood Hill, and it's Will Gollop from Dimi Mavropoulos. John Smith drifting the X-Track onto the grass in his efforts to get with Dimi Mavropoulos and challenge for second place. He can't quite do it. Meantime, Will Gollop is beginning to pull out away and bring the Metro through Langley's Gap, and it looks as though Will Gollop is going to do his points account a very good turn here as he comes through to take victory. Car number 18, Will Gollop taking victory there. A good run for Will Gollop. The rest of the field coming through, but a very good race indeed. as we see Will coming down over Hoppy's drop to return to the paddock with 10 points under his belt and a good start to the second part of the series. Well, Will Gollop took victory there. Let's take another look at the final manoeuvre that enabled him to secure that victory. We see him come up onto the top of Tumbledown Hill here, tucks right in behind Dimmy Mavropoulos. Dimmy drifts a bit wide, and Will seizes his opportunity, gets through on the inside, and then has to fight very, very hard to give himself time to move over and close the door on Mavropoulos as they go into the first part of the S's. Dimmy virtually getting that lead back again, but I think perhaps the Quattro going into the corner a little bit too hard, and he loses a bit of ground there on Gollop as they come out of the S's and up the hill, and that was the manoeuvre that enabled Will Gollop to take those precious 10 points.
Will Gollop already looking good for the final. He has 19 points from 2 drives. We'll update the league table later. But now the big confrontation. The 3 race winners from last week, our joint leaders, all set for a showdown.
I'm going to be struggling in this race. I've only got 140 brake horsepower at the maximum against these big cars, so I can only do my best.
And you're up against the defending champion here, John Welch, so you're not too optimistic?
Not very, no. I'm afraid so.
John, is that the way you read it?
I read a lot of problems here because there's 4 very, very quick cars, which obviously will make one race, and there's 4 very quick cars in their class, so I think it'll be a very good race to watch.
Mark Renison at the end there, you're up against John Welch too. How's that going to go?
I don't know, because in the front row we've got Trevor Hopkins as well, so I think we've got to worry about Trevor first and John.
Well, like I said, you're all on maximum points. Something's got to give, so who's going to win?
I paid him a £5.
He's lying.
Should have paid me a tenner.
We'll have to see.
Should be an interesting race, I think.
Yes, the man they fear down there on pole position, number 2, 4 times British champion, Trevor Hopkins, with his brand new RS200. This car, incidentally, is a pre-production model, chassis number 6. It's powered by the engine that was produced by Stig Blomqvist on the 1986 Lombard RAC Rally. And there's the view that Johnny Welsh has as Welsh's car, view there from John Welsh's car, camera on board. So can they defeat Trevor Hopkins, or will that pole position be good? And can Hoppy defeat our 3 current championship leaders there? And as they all break cleanly from the grid, John Welsh already making a very good run through the field. Coming behind him is Mark Renison, but the early leader is indeed Trevor Hopkins. Trevor Hopkins, the early leader, with Mark Renison coming through on the inside to make it an RS200 1-2. Johnny Welsh there in 3rd place as they go down into the S's for the first time. But it's Trevor Hopkins then with the Shell Oils RS200 leading the DSRM version of Mark Renison. Watch also further down the field, we have Thor Holm, the Norwegian driver. Very, very quick indeed. There he is in 4th position behind John Welsh. Thor Holm over here from Norway to contest this series. Did very well in the Grand Prix, getting into the top 10. And we've got 4 very fast cars going away there, leading the field, headed now by John Welsh. John Welsh in front of the 3 RS200s, which are now 2nd, 3rd and 4th. No, they're not, because we've got Trevor Hopkins extending that lead. Hoppy getting away from them. And Trevor Hopkins it is, pulling out a useful lead as they come down the Cooper Straight. Then car number 2. Trevor, who's reverted to the RS200 after a lot of transmission failures on his 4-wheel drive Escort, and all the field comes pouring through there, through the S's. John Waghorn with the Visa, trying his utmost, but of course really losing out in the power race here as we go into the 2nd round in the series. But it's Trevor Hopkins making a superb start for the series sponsors Shell Oils, and Trevor it is dominating the issue at the moment from the reigning Shell Oils champion. John Welsh behind John Welsh, Mark Renison, then comes Holm, and it looks like Trevor Reeves, who's hanging on there remarkably well with the 1600 pushrod Fiesta. Meantime, the leader through Langley's Gap and away across the knife edge, a long way clear now of John Welsh, and Ashford's Trevor Hopkins really going. John Welsh 2nd, then comes Mark Renison, then Thor Holm, then Trevor Reeves with a little 1600 pushrod Fiesta. But the leader's already well clear, coming over Hoppy's drop. There's John Welsh just closing right up, and John there can really see Trevor Hopkins now as he comes down the Cooper Straight into the chicane, and John Welsh really closing now on the RS200 of Trevor Hopkins. Very, very close together as they go up to the top of Tumbledown Hill, with John trying to come through on the inside, and Hoppy really closing the door on him, and Trevor Hopkins spins. Trevor Hopkins tries a little bit too hard, and John, I think, may have made contact there. And Trevor Hopkins in trouble, but meantime it's put Mark Renison into the lead. Hoppy rejoins just in front of number 52, Mike Shield. but it's put Mark Renison into the leading position. I thought that Trevor Hopkins was not going to rejoin, and also it was trouble there for John Welsh, but they both rejoined, and John right back in the fray again, coming into close now on his arch rival throughout the 1986 British Championship, and it's Mark Renison, John Welsh, with Thor Holm in third place now. The Norwegian driver getting right in the act there, and it's RS200s in first and third places. John Welsh, the meat in the sandwich there with the privately engineered X-Track, and the three of them locked together as they come down on the Cooper Straight, and we can see that maybe Mark Renison getting away a little bit there from John Welsh as they come down into the chicane. Coming into the chicane for the last time, leaders on their last lap then, with there we see Thor Holm in the XT Andervan car, which won the West Euro Cup in Europe rallying in 1986. He's in third spot behind Johnny Welsh, but ahead of John Welsh we have Mark Renison for the DSRM Group Racing Team, and it's Rennie, 24 years of age, from Cleesby in North Yorkshire, leading John Welsh from Hampshire. Then the Norwegian Thor Holm holding a strong third place. They're coming round through its hairpin for the last time, and the classic battles of 86 between these two top British drivers renewed here this afternoon at Brands Hatch, but it looks like Mark Renison's going to do it, and Mark Renison it is coming through. Mark Renison takes the checkered flag from Johnny Welsh. The Norwegian coming home in third place, that's Thor Holm, the Norwegian. Those three cars a long way clear of the remainder of the field, and it looks as if it's going to be brilliant, but the winner is indeed Mark Renison. Mark Renison coming down there with the DSRM Tinsley trailers, RS200, and that's given him overall lead in the series. He has indeed beaten Johnny Welsh. There he is, and John just in front of Thor Holm, the talented Norwegian.
So, defending champion John Welsh beaten in controversial circumstances. John, what actually happened there?
We had a very good race with Mark, and managed to kind of creep past him and set off after Trevor. Going up into kind of Paddock Bend, which is probably 80-90 mile an hour entry speed, I tried to sneak down the inside, and the RS turned in very, very tight, and I just tapped Trevor, and when both cars are on the limit, then unfortunately Trevor kind of disappeared out of my view.
Trevor, from your point of view, a little disconcerting. It's the first time you've actually driven this car, isn't it?
Yes, it's the first time I've driven the RS today. I'm very pleased with it. I think half the problem was that in the RS you cannot see the other traffic around you, especially from behind. So,
is that your excuse?
Yes, that's my excuse.
Let's have a look then and see actually what happened quite clearly. And let's just take a look. Here we go. That's John's view.
Yes, well, Trevor's gone out very, very wide, so he's turning in. You don't show it, but my foot's hard on the pedal, and as Trevor comes across the nose, it's one of those incidents, really, that maybe I shouldn't have been there. If you don't try, you don't get past.
Well, I know your mates, but whose fault was it?
Definitely John's, wasn't it? You could see the wheels spinning, pushing me along.
Well, it's always the car in front, isn't it?
We'll leave it there, I think.
Yeah.
You can see how that result affects the league table after the last race. But these events are not just about the drivers. So much else goes on behind the scenes. Well, in Rallycross, it's obviously essential that cars get a first-class grip if they can on the track or the rough, wherever they are. So with me, who better to tell us about how they get that grip is Malcolm Forbes from Waltham Services. Malcolm, what are you doing here?
I'm about to cut a tyre into a full cut as the conditions are changing during the day. We start off with a slick and then we move on to a half cut. And obviously, as it's now wet, we're cutting tyres into full patterns.
So let's just get this straight. The slicks are obviously for dry conditions, and you put the cuts in when it starts to get wet. So a driver can actually change minute by minute how he wants to have the tread on his car?
That's correct, yes.
How long does it take?
To cut a tyre, about 7 minutes in total.
Can you give us a quick example of the sort of thing you do?
Yes, certainly.
Let's have a look then. And tell us what you're doing as you do it, or is it too noisy?
No, at the moment we've got a half cut tyre, which we're now going to cut into a full cut tyre.
Go on then, show us.
All right.
And that makes the cut, and you then just pull it out like that?
That's right.
No noise at all?
No noise at all.
Wonderful. Now, why do some people run with half slick and half tread?
Well, during the drier conditions, because Rallycross is half tarmac and half loose, they need the slick for the tarmac and the cut for the loose. And obviously, as I say, as the conditions change, so we cut the tyres out further.
So obviously on a day like this, when it starts dry and finishes wet, you're a busy man?
I'm a very busy man.
Now we come to the third race of the afternoon, and down there on pole position from the Isle of Man, number 56, Big Ron Hudson with the Terry Hoyle powered Mark II Ford Escort. and this could be one of the top men to watch for in this race. Over on the outside of the front row of the grid, looking rather pensive as he waits for the start marshals to get them under order. That's Terry Sowden from Bristol with the 2-litre Ford Escort, ex-gunner Kittelsen car. This one used to be driven by the Norwegian driver Kittelsen, but also in front of the grid there, 177 Bob Smith. He could well be in the action also, and very shortly we shall see as they come down into the paddock turn for the first time, and it's Terry Sowden who's got the early lead. Number 37, Terry Sowden from Bristol in the lead from the Isles of Man resident Ron Hudson. Bob Smith from Orpington here in Kent down in third place. Then comes Tony Bardi from Yorkshire in car number 26, the little yellow Mini. And those 4 cars well clear of the Fiesta of 129. Dave Phillipson going away up into the Druids hairpin for the first time, and it's still Terry Sowden from Ron Hudson, and then comes 177 Bob Smith with Phillipson trying to get alongside Bardi, but can't do so as they go away down onto the knife edge. The conditions here seemingly suiting the front engine rear-wheel drive cars, which are now beginning to dominate this race, and it's Terry Sowden coming under a lot of pressure from Ron Hudson, and Ron Hudson getting through on the inside as they go up onto the top of Hoppy's Drop. It looked like the Ron Hudson car that went in front, and it was, and Ron still holding that position from Terry Sowden. Smith there in third place, then comes Tony Bardi down the Cooper Straight, and Terry Sowden makes his move once again, and Terry Sowden comes back on the inside of Ron Hudson as they come into the chicane, and Bob Smith closing right in there with them also, and Tony Bardi's 16-valve Mini right in there with a chance. Little front-wheel drive Mini there, still showing very competitive form here this afternoon, and the Escorts are almost 3 abreast as they come down onto tumble down hills, but it in fact is now it's Terry Sowden who's got the advantage. Terry Sowden with Bob Smith up now into second place, and Ron Hudson's now dropped down into third before we get the front-wheel drive machinery. A very tight race going on here. The front-wheel drive cars very closely packed in there behind the Escorts, headed by Tony Bardi. You can see Dave Pritchard being passed there by Dave Phillipson, but up front it's still Bob Smith, though, demonstrating his ability as he comes through the knife edge with Ron Hudson in very hot pursuit. Ron back into second place, and Tony Bardi up now to third, and Bob Smith has dropped down the order somewhat. No, Terry Sowden who's dropped down the order, I beg your pardon, and it is in fact Bob Smith who is in the lead. Bob Smith leading still. Ron Hudson in second place, Tony Bardi now into third. Round and down onto the Cooper Straight. Tony Bardi charging in third. There is Terry Sowden in fourth, ahead of Dave Pritchard. Dave Pritchard with the lightweight Metro. Through the chicane they all come. There is 37, Terry Sowden down in fourth position, but for how much longer I wonder, as Ron Hudson retakes the lead. Ron Hudson takes the lead now as they go down, tumble downhill, and as Smith gets a little bit of trouble there on the rough edge of the track, so the Mini comes through into second place, and Tony Bardi, who's had a lot of rough luck just of late, really is coming good here this afternoon, and Tony Bardi really trying hard. 37, Terry Sowden in fourth place, but it's Tony Bardi putting a lot of pressure now on Ron Hudson, the leader. Ron Hudson is who leads from 26, Tony Bardi. They come round Druids into Langley's Gap with just over a lap to go. Bob Smith back into third place, but the battle really on for the lead now, and still Ron Hudson from Tony Bardi. Hudson now begins to open up a bit of a lead over the York driver, who in turn is coming under a lot of pressure now from Bob Smith. Bob Smith, Terry Sowden, then comes Dave Phillipson. Dave Phillipson driving the car which Trevor Reeves used at the Grand Prix back in December, but meantime Tony Bardi hasn't given up hope yet. Notes the understeering characteristics of the Mini, drifting very wide there, losing ground on number 56, Ron Hudson, and Ron Hudson it is coming through, still holding the advantage from Tony Bardi. Then comes Bob Smith, Terry Sowden, Dave Phillipson really in there in the act along with the driver from down in the West Country. But up front it is still this titanic battle between the front engine rear-wheel drive Escort and the front-wheel drive Mini, and Tony Bardi as they come out of the SS for the last time to ascend Haywood Hill into Druids. Tony Bardi trying to get the inside line and come through on the inside as they come into Druids, but Ron Hudson's not having it. He closes the door very firmly on the Yorkshireman, and Tony has to settle for second place as they come away down into Langley's Gap. Ron throwing that Escort really sideways, and as he overcooked it, can Tony Bardi come through? I don't think he can. No, Ron recovers just in time, and it's going to be number 56, Ron Hudson from Tony Bardi, who in turn comes under a lot of pressure from Smith. But a terrific race between those boys, with Terry Sowden in fourth, but the winner there coming down over the top of Hoppy's Drop, and the lad from the Isle of Man, Big Ron Hudson in car number 56, takes his first victory in the series from a very determined Tony Bardi.